What's up, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're actually going to be working on the slick top a little bit. I know we've been long overdue. We actually have our spark plugs we got to put back in it, and we have to measure out a plug to plug the recirc valve port on the portion underneath the headlights so we can use blow-off valves. And once we do that, we're going to swap our chip over into our other ECU because we think our ECU is faulty. If not, hopefully it's just the chip because that's a lot cheaper than an ECU. And then once we get the Z kind of running and driving where we can move it to get it trailered to head over to the body and paint shop, we're actually going to be working over here on Bladens Z. So we did do a little ATF cycle in this thing. We soaked about a cap full of ATF fluid in each cylinder, let it sit for a little bit. We idled the car out, smoked ourselves out, as you guys probably seen in the last video, or technically 2 videos ago. And after doing everything, originally our compression was only right under 90, but I've let this thing stay hooked up all night, overnight, so it's definitely dropped down. We were right under 150 after the soak and after a full heat cycle, so we actually brought this engine back to life with over 60 psi just by soaking the cylinders in automatic trans fluid with the detergents in the fluid. Actually freed up the piston rings, allowed them to move and expand appropriately, and reseal the gap or just the pistons in the cylinder. Super big dub, because that means this engine and everything's totally fine. It sounds great when it runs, and that's why I kind of thought that there was nothing wrong with it. We just needed to put a little attention into the actual block. So we're going to be starting the 120K timing kit on this thing. Who knows, maybe finishing it up, because it definitely needs it. This bearing's so old that it's actually kind of worn out from where the belt has been riding. And you can tell that belt is cracked between each tooth. Safe to say it's going to greatly benefit, and it's going to take a lot of guesswork out of the future of the motor. And I don't know, we still have to talk. The rear main seal is dripping a little bit. We definitely need to do the coolant line bypass, because once it got up to temp, it was hissing and leaking on the floor. So fortunately, well, it's a given. Just do your plenum deletes and bypasses and stuff. Thank yourself later. But now we're going to head over to Tractor Supply to get those little expansion plugs to pop in the headlight pipes for the slick top. Gotta let the passenger princess in. She loves her morning rides. I know I mentioned it in the end of last video, but we did go pick up a slew of parts over in Lafayette. So if anyone needs, I've got pretty much a full twin turbo exhaust. I've got an aftermarket MAF, a starter, a couple little odds and ends. Another thing down here is we actually have some Greddy old school turbos with the downpipes to match. So if you guys are looking for a cool turbo kit, and I'm pretty sure it's capable of 500 horsepower. From everything that I've read online, you have no issue making 500 horsepower with them turbos. So hit me up. They're like $5 grand brand new, but I'm obviously not charging that because these are tried and true. They're good turbos, and you just bolt on and have some jam. Now let's go get our parts. Package secured. We got 2 of them, and they fit great. And look at that front bumper. Beyond ready to get this thing installed. Aren't you? Yeah, she wants to go on a ride. That's what she wants. Let's get him, Coach! Yeah, kill it, Caden. Longly waited and highly anticipated. Here's my slick top. We actually had to rob these things for Matt's car, but basically we're just putting these guys right in there. And we actually grabbed something to help it seal a little better. We grabbed just some liquid gasket that'll cure in like an hour or 2. And these expansion plugs are only like 1 inch to 1 1/8 inch for anyone looking. So we're just gonna kind of wipe out the inside of these bungs so we can just make sure that there's no oil or debris. Mainly so the RTV will cure and adhere nicely. Not too dirty, pretty surprised. And we did check prior, it is actually a 13 mil to make this work. So unfortunately, I lost my ratcheting wrench at the junkyard or something. Maybe I should go try to find that this year. Yes, as I did this, I realized that if I ever have to take this out, it's gonna be tough, but whatever. It's better to, you know, be a problem later than an issue right now. I actually did not know I already mounted my HKSs in here, so I guess that's pretty nice. Anyways, let's just make quick work of this because I don't really want to mess with it. So don't listen to me on using those other ones. Use the ones that I've used before. They're only an inch and they swell out plenty because you can tell it's got plenty of squish here. The other ones literally just kept popping out as I was using them. But we have one in. A little tip, just want to kind of hold the edge to keep it from spinning while you tighten it. I just like to grab some pliers and twist it from the bottom and use it to actually turn the T-piece. It is now time to reinstall some spark plugs. I guess I need to get some air to blow these threads off. If you look at the tips, they're actually kind of rusty, and that is kind of a byproduct of using E85 because there's water in the ethanol, at least significantly more than there is in pump gas. So you want to change these a little more often, especially if you let it sit and don't drive it a bunch. But this is probably 15,000 miles, maybe even 20, because I actually bought these used for like 20 bucks that had like 5,000 miles. I don't know. It's been a while, but we're just going to throw them back in for now, although it does not hurt to change them. As always, before we install, I'm going to lube up the threads just a little bit to help them come out next time, and just to keep our threads in nice good shape inside the heads. You don't have to go too crazy with it. Well, thank goodness I put some of these rags in here to keep like extra moisture from going down into the engine and also all the debris. But since we don't have a spark plug socket, I'm just going to feed it down in there with a magnet. And if we can't spin it to get the thread started, we just put a extension down there to hold the plug so we can pull the magnet off. And now we can hand thread it in and give it a 1/3 to a 1/4 tighten with a ratchet. So let's go ahead and put all these back in because I don't really want to do this, as you know. It's just extra stuff and I really want to get this thing started. We got all the plugs in, all the coil packs hooked up, bolted down, as well as the balance tube. We threw a battery in. We got not only our accessory wire, but also our fuel pump wire hooked up to the battery. And we're actually getting power. So we did go ahead and throw the fuel pump in, just the 3 hoses, the 6 8mm, and the 4 screws for the top part. And now we've got our multimeter hooked up so we can actually read here coming out of the relay to see if it's sending any juice over here. Because this is technically powered by the battery. And whenever this trigger wire right here in the blue gets fed, it should send power out of this. So we're gonna know with our multimeter all hooked up if we're actually getting power when we turn the key. Well, it gets it, at least to prime, but it's not priming the pump. So what's the issue here? See what it gets when I crank. Oh. It acted like it wanted to do it. Only thing is when you leave the key out and you go to turn it, you don't hear anything at all. So what I'm starting to wonder, is our ECU bad? Or is it something back here? Because I don't hear the pump kicking on at all. Usually you can hear the thing hum when you turn the key, which we are not hearing whatsoever. It's just clicking. But it's showing that we're getting the 12 volts. And we're getting voltage when we crank it. I'm just wondering if the voltage is dropping and maybe we need to throw a jump pack on. I don't know. I guess we'll see. There's actually 2 settings to your fuel pump and your ECU. One is to prime it when you turn the key, and the second one is to run all the time. But basically we have it hardwired up there to run off a trigger of the stock system, so when the stock system is telling it to run, it'll actually run. So I'm really just hoping the pump's not bad and I just put all that back in for nothing. So I actually just kind of popped and swapped the fuel pump, not the actual fuel pump, but I wanted to kind of jump the relay to make sure, even though I seen the voltage was going through, just for my brain's sake. And now we have pretty much the spare pump. We've got it hooked up exactly the same. And watch what happens when we touch these two together. Fuel pump kicks on. So that's telling me our fuel pump is dead. But what it's not telling me is why the other car wouldn't start. I mean, as I crank this car over, it's actually giving us an RPM reading as I crank it over, but it wasn't on the green Z. So I'm starting to think that that crank angle sensor we put in it is no good. That is a major bummer because it's a high dollar crank angle sensor being a new style. We may have to swap the actual whole top hat itself because I'm afraid the wiring going through it has actually possibly burnt out. So before and after. We got it out. Technically not what I was wanting to show you, but I want to show you guys this. So we've got it hooked up to the black connector or the black wire here, and we've also got the alligator clip connected on the other end. In theory, the resistance should be like 1, but if you look at it, it just keeps moving. So this tells me that this wire or this pass-through is actually fried of some sort. We just moved it over the other side. See, we get no reading. Let's move this to the positive. And we're still jumping around. So I'm thinking that our bulkhead pass-throughs have actually fried, and we're actually going to just have to swap all this over to that other one, which is what I suspected. I just wanted to show you guys so you know kind of how to test if you're having the same kind of issue yourself. Because I bet you I could hook a 12-volt source up to this, and it's just going to immediately start pumping the fuel pump. Now we've got it set up just to continuity. You'll see it'll say there's something there, but it's not a consistent buzz or beep. So this tells me that there's something wrong there. We just swapped it back to the ground, and this one actually buzzes. In comparison to the rest of the wiring, this gauge right here to here is way smaller from the factory, so I'm thinking this is our culprit. So I actually did already do all these tests. The other day, not the other day, technically on Mother's Day, I took the car to my mom's to go see her and whatnot. But actually, the next time I went to drive it a month later, I started it up, I pulled it out down the alley, and by the time I got to the end of the alley, the car actually died. And while I did all these tests and all this jazz while the car was down there, I applied 12 volts directly to the pump worked, so I just chalked it up to be the actual bulkhead. I haven't messed with it, but it's looking like I should have did this a long time ago. So now we've got the fuel pump hooked up to the actual jump pack, so as soon as we flick this, it should apply 12 volts and the pump should kick on. Pump is not fried. So this is what concretes my suspicions of it actually being the wiring and the pass-through. Unfortunately, I forgot all my soldering stuff at my other shop, so I'm gonna have to get it all once we go there on my way to meet my sister to go eat at college, because they got the best burger joint over there, and I love going there on Tuesdays. We've got our hook straight up to the jump pack yet again, so let's pull the trigger, or flip the switch. Oh, fuel pump's kicking on, so that means we should be good to drop this thing back in the car. Yes, I'm sorry I didn't record, but as you can tell, we got her fired up. And well, after sitting for so long, it's just acting kind of funny. Every time I hit on the gas, it kind of dies. But the difference from now and back then is I actually have a smoke tester now. So I can actually test the intake for any air leaks and kind of go from there. But the Z is running. Everything's hooked back up. And being a first E-start in quite some time, I suspect it was going to be pretty rough. But right now it's kind of evened out at 1100 RPMs. Everything's been going pretty good. I'll flip the throttle and see what it does. Okay, it's revving a lot better. It was falling on its face though. Kind of a strange sound. No idea what that was, if it was a backfire or what, but we'll just let it idle out, let it get a little warmed up. Even though it says it's warm, we're about 117 degrees. So let's let it get up to at least 150, let it idle out some of that old fuel. Who knows, maybe we'll refresh in the E before we do anything. Right now I'm happy because all it needs to do is drive on the trailer so Eric can take it and begin to work on it to fix the rear end and to paint it. So we call this a dub. It's now the next morning and we're here for another dub. We're actually going to pick up the 42,000 mile motor and transmission and drop them back here in the back of Gabby's car, like I always do. So we actually have to disconnect the transmission first. Shouldn't be that big of a deal, but honestly the biggest issue today is going to be getting this car to move backwards because it is so rusted on the brake rotors that I cannot even move it. Right now, not in gear or anything. Yeah, let that noise be a testament to what I'm dealing with here. So I think I'm going to have to kind of prop up the wheels, make a ramp of some sort so we can get a running start and just try to keep pushing it backwards, because basically I just want this to be open so not only can my mom drive the golf cart here down to the fire pit, but so I can pull the car back and back up to the engine. And I'm going to make the most out of today because I found out my charges were filed online, so it's whatever. We're still hoping for the best. There's still hope at the end of the tunnel. I'm just hoping it doesn't go worst case. And I obviously think you guys hope the same thing. Got our big old pry bar over here. There we go. We're off the dowel now. Yeah. All right, looks like we're ready to fit this thing in. So let's play some musical cars. Let's get that back here. Let's get it to where we can load this bad boy up. We got it all loaded up, and it's time to head back to the shop. I think I'm gonna stop and grab a burrito at Taco Bell because they have the loaded potato grillers. So they're like grilled burritos. Best thing in the world. When I was in high school, we literally used to go after school every single day to Taco Bell, where I live now, and we would actually buy them during happy hour for $1 a piece and eat like 6 a day. Insane. They're delicious. So go check them out if you haven't already, and let's head back to the house. Now we're back to the shop and we're ready to start on our 120K timing kit. Please excuse the cricket. He's doing his own thing out there. He must be having a concert, but he has not stopped all morning. So I've been cleaning up the shop. We got stuff in the rear clean so we could reposition the car. But now we're gonna, there's always something. We're gonna pull these intakes off. We're gonna kind of thread all this wiring over here out of the way, disconnect the cast, get all of our coolant drained out, pull this radiator, the fan, basically get it where we can start tackling this timing belt set. And we're gonna go ahead and move forward. You guys have seen me do this a million times, so I'm not gonna show you all that stuff, but I might show you the stuff when we actually, you know, get down in, set the timing, put the belt on, because it always helps to have them little bit of tips, even when you don't know. So we will be back in just a moment when it's fully done. Just kidding. It's definitely been longer than I would like it to have been. We haven't got the coolant pipes off. I kind of want to wait till we get the lower cover off, and I'll drain it through the water pump first, so it's actually kind of more controlled than just spewing everywhere. We had some mishaps. I did actually film a short on how to remove an automatic crank pulley, if it's, you know, auto, obviously. Because last time on Derek Z, I actually got away with using a swivel and an impact. This time, not so much. My swivel actually broke, the pin came out, sliced my finger open. Thankfully, it just now stopped bleeding. It's been like an hour. If you guys are wondering, we actually put a breaker bar on it. We put the extension from our handle over here on our jack on the breaker bar to wedge it underneath the frame rail or the tension rod bracket. Cranked the car over, did it a couple times because it didn't do it right away, and we managed to break it free using the torque of the starter. So now we're down to pulling this thing off. And I wanted to show you guys another reason why these aluminum pulleys suck. Over time, they actually corrode and get seized on. So as I tighten this to remove it with this puller, which is indefinitely going to damage this a little bit, but listen, it pops on its way out. Instead of just sliding off, it waits till it builds too much pressure and then it moves a little bit. Another one of them instances here where OEM is always best. A couple of business days later, I think we got it freed up. Yeah, that's as far as we're going to be able to get with the crank bolt. But since we have these new style intake cam gears, we're actually going to have to pull the plenum, pull these valve covers off, and we're actually going to have to use a wrench on the camshaft itself so we can actually tighten it when it comes to reinstalling those gears. But for right now, something that's been way overdue. That's my kind of ASMR, the visually pleasing kind. Although not completely finished, we'll get it really cleaned up once we can pull our brackets and stuff and get a little bit more room, which we're definitely going to have to do when it comes to pulling this plenum off. Now I will have to say this is the first time I've ever went to actually pull this lower cover off, and this 8mm bolt got stuck in the water pump bolt. Usually it's this one right here on the rear timing cover because they're like similar torque specs, but for this to be 12 foot-pounds and to come out with 3, something's not right here. Well, I can't even lie, literally every single bolt is like that. Literally, it didn't even pop, snap, or anything. It just starts to loosen. That tells me someone did not tighten this enough. Now it's arguably time for one of my favorite parts. Cracking that water pump loose. It's just so enjoyable. Ooh, look at that. I'm like a ninja. So when it's loose and you don't back all your bolts out, you can kind of adjust how much you want the fluid to leak out. And I don't want it to go crazy because I don't want it to splash everywhere. Ow! Why does coolant burn cuts? I did not ever know that to be a thing. Not often do I see things that I like that people do, you know, just on their own will. But instead of using these Allen key bolts, they actually have 13 mil normal bolts into the place. And that is so clutch because so many times you'll go to actually remove some of these, or even when you go to install them, and that key gets so wedged in the coolant bolt that it won't come out and you actually get your socket stuck. Nothing like a nice tensioner flop. Gotta collect all these bolts so we can give them a nice parts wash or soak in the chem dip, whatever. Take this old raggedy crusty thing. I don't think it wants to leave the car. We're gonna chimney chuck it in the bin, as Gordon Ramsay would say. You yawning at me out there? You got something to say? Why don't you give me a hand? Help me come get all greasy. Can you shake? Shake. Shake? Yeah, that's my baby. Let's go ahead, let's get some of this stuff done. Like, let's pull these bypass hoses, get all this jazz off. Nice. Not too bad, but that is a ticking time bomb. Yep, tensioner's clapped as well. Add another one to the scrap bin. But as I said, let's finish all this up, at least pull it, pop and swap what we can, and we'll be back in a minute, probably when we have to start taking the plenum off. I don't want to take the plenum off, but it needs a coolant line bypass from under the plenum, so let's do it. Hey, we're back. It's been a couple hours, actually, it's been a while. It's currently 10 at night. I still just cannot stop trying to get stuff done, but this is where we stand. We've got our cam gears on, pretty much all tight. I just did like 3 clicks with the impact, water pumps torqued to spec. We have not messed with the crank or the crank seal yet. We've only got 8 bolts holding the plenum on, and we removed all of the coolant lines that go underneath the plenum. You got these 2 back here. We cut this one in the middle, and then the one back on that side we got off. We are going to bypass them, so we're just going to loop them back around to each other and replace these hoses because they're pretty dry rotted, especially from sitting out in the sun for so many years. I'm beyond ready to get this over with, so let's do it. Much better. I have a much better feeling about not dropping stuff all in the intake. I'm honestly kind of ready to see what we're dealing with underneath this plenum. Of course, we gotta give it some extra persuasion. It don't just do it on its own. I don't understand. Okay, I was about to say, surely I'm not forgetting something. I've only done this like 100 times. All of that hassle over one little connector clip. Just as I suspected, what in the world? There's a whole snail shell. Come on. Definitely don't think there's a snail in it anymore, but I have to say that is a first. I guess it's time to grab the vacuum and give it a little one over. But now for us to be able to actually pull these valve covers, these spark plug tube guys are gonna have to come out. Okay, what is behind door number 1 other than being excessively slippery? Tube seals have left the chat, and it's starting to look like we're gonna have to do a little bit more because the valve covers are leaking directly down into the valley. All unbolted. Oh, well, that came up pretty easily. I'm just a little frustrated here because I definitely did not intend on doing all this, because that means I don't exactly have all the parts on hand. I actually need to order some rear half moons, because it's evident that the main problem here is actually the exhaust valve covers. Because if you look, you can see the head is actually stained a little brown. Well, it's because it's running down from this side, not the intakes. On another note, inside of this actually looks pretty clean. Not bad at all. When it comes to torquing down your intake cam gears, I may have been a little misleading in the past by saying you can just tuck a rag in between to cushion in between the head. But if you do this hard enough, it can actually crack your head casting. We're going to put this on, get it sized correctly. I really need to get a wrench the exact same size so I don't really have to do this with an adjustable wrench. Basically, as I tighten it with the right hand, or whatever your dominant hand is, you can kind of go back and forth. we're actually going to hold the wrench with the other. And we're going, I believe it's 90 to 95 foot-pounds. Just like that, we managed to do it by ourselves and not have to worry about cracking that casting. So now technically the whole reason that we came to take all this off is done. Yeah, I know, it's super stupid. So pretty much there's another way. You can wrap your timing belt around the gear and put it on like your crank or something. Get it where it's like locked in, you twist it where it's not gonna slide. And it's called the belt wrap method, and then you can torque it down. I've never had luck, so this is how I do it. Appears someone has put sealant on here instead of replacing the O-rings. Gotta love when people do hillbilly stuff like that. That says a lot, coming from a hillbilly myself. Usually it costs more to cut corners than to just do stuff right to begin with, so take that for what you will. Don't forget to count your belt teeth. It's the best way to go about it. 24, 45, 24, 59. And then you can just slap it on. Well, here's my brain fart of the day. We didn't change the crank sprocket or the seal. And here I am trying to throw this belt on like I'm all done and ready to go. Ah, man. I swear I'm always a step ahead of myself. So basically we're just gonna cut it right above the keyway because this thing is stuck on there instead of trying to drill it, pull it off, whatever. Once we get it far enough in between here and here, we're gonna slap it with the chisel and a hammer and split that gear. Something a little bit like that. This is kind of worst case, so worse that I actually broke one of the gear teeth in the process. But that's what we're about to do. I don't know if I want to do this at 11 o'clock at night with my neighbors hating me and whatnot. And realistically, I wasn't even going to show you guys. I wanted to make a short about it because I've made shorts about all the other ones. You know, like when they're easy to take off. I feel like I need to educate some people on how to do it when it's not so easy. Usually that's how it goes. Oh, I forgot to mention, I did pop the VTC solenoid off on this side. Not over here yet. It's going to be a little bit more tight. But in comparison to that crusty, dirty, nasty VTC, check out what it looks like when it's all cleaned up. Literally brand new. Yes, this is new glass, so I'm taking it easy, and we got some foam and cardboard down. Now the real decisions. What in the world do I do? This EGR is totally caked shut. It's not even working. That's pretty comical. Decisions. Well, I had to actually wrap up that night, unfortunately, because I had to make that nice order at Concept Z Performance, but thankfully that'll be in mid next week. But on another note, I've got to get this timing belt on, which I did get the crank gear changed. I just mounted the tensioner, it's not bolted up. I've got the piston here compressed to about 2 millimeters so we can set the timing and then allow that to take up the slack. Should jump to about 4. So we're going to put about 7 pounds of pressure on that, set at 2 millimeters, and then it roughly should come out to about 4 when all said and done. So basically our goal here is if you can fit a 4 mil in and not a 5 millimeter, usually that's good enough for me. I mean, especially for the overthinkers, it's not like most of us are chasing crazy power or whatever. Like that little bit of adjustment, I mean, the factory service manual says like 3.6 to 5.2 or 5.4. So as long as a 5 will not fit, but a 4 does, you're good to go. I've got everything lined up right now, all my timing marks. I got a white line here. It appears we have moved one up here. I love it. But the annoying thing about that, this gear is so sharp in comparison to any gear I've ever twisted that I actually sliced my thumb open yesterday. So I have some beef with this gear. But also, we have to get this done in the next 30 minutes because we actually have 2 cars pulling into the shop. And the funny thing is, we just did this 120K kit. We've got 2 more coming in. One of them has to be done by tomorrow. He's going to Z Nationals. I got to get his car taken care of. Especially if I'm about to have some surgery and be down for a little bit. Dang, I didn't leave the GoPro rolling. I suck. So basically, I just wedged a screwdriver down here once I know I got the crank gear lined up. All I had to do was put some slack here, twist this side back because it's actually at rest at top dead center and you can shake the gears back and forth. This side is under the pressure of the valve so they can snap shut anyway. Now we're going to grab our 12 mil mount bolts. We're going to get this tensioner mounted up since it's all floppy like right now so we can secure each of these points and then we can start our adjustment process. First we're going to hand tighten it, keep it held in place. Now we can turn the thing over Everything's locked into position. Make sure all your lines are lined up. You should be good at this point. As long as you never take this tensioner off again and allow any of these to actually jump, you're good. Before we start to turn it over, we actually need to loosen the 10 mil or the stopper bolt in the tensioner so we can actually allow the tensioner to adjust to wherever it's going to go and not be stopped by that bolt. You can see we've already taken up some slack in the belt, just loosening that. So odds are you're not going to get it the first time. Usually it's after you rotate it a couple times. You see that tensioner just jumped open. So after you do all this, you get your stopper out, you rotate it a little bit to allow this to take up the slack. You're going to wait 5 minutes to allow the tensioner to take up the slack in the belt. After that 5 minutes, you want to spin it 720 degrees to simulate the engine actually turning over and running so you can actually read your tensioner gap. Right now I can just tell it's way too big. We're going to stick a 5 in there. Yeah, we could probably fit a 6 mil in there, I'm not going to lie. Yep, it's about 6.5. So we got to tighten that stopper bolt back down. And I will say, when you do this, be very, very careful. You don't want to just crank this tensioner down super fast, because if you do, you can actually break this bracket and you'll not be able to set your tension. They say to don't do a quarter turn more than every 15 seconds, but honestly, I just put even pressure up on the ratcheting wrench, and as the tensioner relieves, or the piston relieves, it'll actually just tighten up. Now we've waited 5 minutes, we're going to turn it over, simulate the thing running like I said before. Even though I haven't done a full 2 rotations, I did previously do like half a rotation. So we're just going to line our marks up, and now with a 4 mil, we're going to poke it. We can actually turn it, so we're going to put a 5 mil on, see if we can fit that. And a 5 mil does not fit, so this tells me we're definitely within spec below 5 millimeters, even though it might not be an exact 4. I always say 4 because it's like a sweet spot. It allows more time as the belt stretches over time, but this is going to be just fine. I just want to kind of clarify to you guys, because I get a lot of crazy questions or confusion about the timing belts in the private messages and whatnot, so I just wanted to clarify. Now here's another tip. When you go to reset the tension on your tensioner, say if you didn't get your 4 mil gap the first time, always set it to top dead center, because if not, if your cams are to the side, either way they're going to be pulling on the belt, and it's not going to allow you to actually pull the tensioner inwards and adjust it. So a little food for thought. Pretty sure I've spent enough time rambling in this video, especially with this another car or two coming in. I've really got to get this off the blocks and get it pushed up here so we can have more room to work in the rear of the shop and to get these done. So we're going to wrap the video up here. I'm still waiting on parts for this to really finish it out, but you guys will definitely see that in a future video once we can actually get all the stuff that we need. And for now, it's too hot today. I don't know why. It's been decent the past couple days. It's been super hot, but inside the shop has been fine. Today, no. Hasn't rained, but humidity is through the roof, and I am miserable. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate all you guys reaching out over online on like Facebook, Instagram, and all that. Even my email. If you need to contact me below in the description. It shows all the different ways that you can get a hold of me. And please don't be upset if I don't get back to you immediately. Especially since the last couple videos, I have like a short, get a lot of views, and I've just had unbelievable amounts of people reaching out. So I might lose your message. It might get buried in a bunch of new ones. I'm getting like 75 a day, so please bear with me. Thank you guys for watching. If you haven't already, don't forget to drop a like and subscribe down below, as it helps the channel out and it'll help us grow in the end. Thank you guys for watching, and until next time, peace.